Alright everyone, I'm going to do a little video here about just doing some programming on engines. These are all Athearn ready to roll. These are all produced in the last 10 years. The Maersk, the two Iowa and Ohio engines, or Indiana and Ohio engines, and the SP were both, all four released in the last 2 years. And I'm just going to go through it and show you a couple ways to make them run a little bit smoother. They all have the same drive, same motor, same decoder, so this should be a relatively easy process. So bear with me and we'll get started. Alright, so Dom, my wonderful assistant, is helping me out with the camera work again today. So these are the engines that we're going to work on. They're all Athearn ready to roll, as I said before. All my other AC 4400s that I have, the two Norfolk Southerns and the two Milwaukee Roads, the same as this one here. All the AC 4400s are set to the same CVs for what we're going to go over. What we're going to go over here is we're going to make a little graph. Here's the locomotive numbers. Here are the CVs that we're going to change. So CV2 is the start voltage. CV3 is going to be the increasing the momentum. CV4 is the decreasing the momentum. CV5 is the high voltage, and CV6 is the mid voltage. And so what we're going to do to try to get everything running a little bit smoother together is we're going to read these CVs for this guy and match the rest up. I believe I know what the CVs are. I usually have a pretty generic list that I use for, but we just want to be sure. So let's get started. So this is an NCE power cab system. This is a basic starter system. It's about 2 amps, but it's great for programming, and I'll show you why. So if you go down here to the program escape button, you hit that 4 times, and it takes you to programming track. Programming track allows you to read the CVs already in the locomotive on certain decoders. Broadway Limited and Loc Sound, I believe, are difficult to read back. I could be wrong. But this works great for NCE, Digitrack, Tsunami, and what have you. Programming on the main lets you program on the main with other locomotives on there, but you can't read back CVs. You can only program the road number that you have in there. So now that we have this program track, or use the program track selected here, we're going to hit enter and we're going to get started. So now we have the option to go through the standard program, go by CV, or regular. So I'm going to go by CV because we know what CVs we're going to change. So I'm going to hit 2. First CV we're going to read is CV2. CV2 is 0. Means we have nothing set for the start voltage. Now, if your engine has a real tough time starting up, if it has a high current draw, then you may want to increase this. I have a couple of older engines, older Athearns with older motors that have a higher amperage draw, and they're starting off at 30 to 50. It just depends on the engine. But being that these are newer, they should have the same motor, same gears. Some have a few more hours on them than others, but they're all pretty close. So I'm just going to leave that where it is. Sometimes it never hurts to just put in 1, but we're going to leave it where it is for now. The next one is CV3. Oh. CV3 is 4. That's the increase of speed and momentum. So as you're adding speed or building up speed, that's the amount of momentum that you're going to have for it. So we want to keep that. CV4 is momentum again, but that's deceleration. So we're going to write that in here. It's 4. We want to save that, so we hit enter. Now we hit CV5, which is our high voltage. We have that set at 0. So this is other than the momentum, this engine hasn't been modified from factory specifications. So we're going to hit enter again, hit CV6, which is the mid voltage. Again, that hasn't been changed. So we're going to put in 0 for both of those. So I haven't played with the speed table at all, which is what CV2, 5, and 6 do. That's your low, mid, and high voltage. So that's how you set your speed curve. So we're going to exit out of that, take this guy off. We're going to go to the next engine in line, which is this Union Pacific C44-9. Now this one is a little bit older, it has a few more hours on it, and it may run a little bit differently. We're going to go in, program it, And you can always change stuff on the fly. If you see that you're running and one's running faster than the other, you can change the speed table as you need to. So this one is set at 5. So we're going to put that back to 0 just to get a baseline. CV3 should be already 4 on here. Yep. CV4 is 4, 5. That's 255. 255 is the maximum value you can have for CV5 or CV6. Also CV3. And that's just the maximum value, I believe, for many CVs, for volumes and such. For other CVs, I think it may vary. So these are the CVs I'm really familiar with. So for kicks and giggles, we're going to send it back to factory settings. So everything's going to go back to 0. CV6, mid voltage. The closest mid voltage you're going to get to mid voltage with an odd number is going to be going to the middle and plus and rounding up. So instead of 122.5, it's 123. And we're going to send that back to 0, just for a clean slate. So now that we're done with that, we're going to take this guy off. We're going to do the next locomotives here. You can pause it. Alright, so here we've got everything set. CVs 2, 5, and 6 are set at 0, and the momentum CVs for acceleration and deceleration, which are 3 and 4, are all set to 4. Now, what you want to look for when you're running your engines in consist is that if there isn't a lot of weight on the train, like either of these are pretty fair-sized trains, but you want either the couplers to be taut or just wiggling a little bit. You don't want your lead engine getting pushed. So we got a nice smooth start. You can see the couplers are taut. Now if we go like this, we should be able to put just a little bit of weight on here and it loosens up a little bit. So that's doing pretty good. So this one we're not going to worry about too much. That's actually working really well there. When you get your engine speed matched real well, you can put a DPU service on there and spread them out, and it'll work pretty nicely. So since I know that SP runs well with my Norfolk Southern and Milwaukee Road AC 4400s, and it's working well with that UP, I know that I can mix and match those as I please, and I shouldn't really have any problems. Something else when you DPU locomotives, and I think that goes for pretty much any scale, always put the fastest locomotive in the front. You never want to have them pushing, especially if you're doing DPUs with mid or end train helpers. You don't want to have the last cars getting pushed. So coming back over to these guys, now that the auto train's out of the way, we're going to just check the same thing here. These are already lashed up. And what we want to do is look at the coupler slack. So before, the way these were set up is the CVs were a little bit different. The start voltage on the Indiana and Ohio's was 15. So we're going to see how they do. It's pretty smooth here. I don't see any slack. Just a little slack in the first coupler there. It's not pushing. So if you look at the front coupler here between the first two engines, you see it's just pushing a little bit. And if you hold the train back just a little bit, it pulls out. So as you change speeds, you'll see that slack changing a little bit. If you speed up and slow down, you'll notice that there's just a little openness between the couplers. If the couplers are getting crushed into each other, that's a problem. Another thing that makes a big difference is the runtime on the locomotives and that they're broken in properly. So in here, it looks like we're doing okay. As you change speeds and everything, that'll make a difference as well. So as you're going through and you're programming locomotives and you're speed matching them, it's going to be more difficult when you get into sound locomotives, especially if you're mixing brands like Tsunami, which has a delay and has a little more pop and circumstance to Tsunami. Something I noticed recently with Tsunami 2 is when you hit speed step 1, it's just going right away and it just floors it. There isn't much momentum, if any, into those, and you really got to put them in there. I have not played with the delay on those, but I know with my local sound engines like my scale trains Givo and my Rapido Canadian -8s, they're really close once they're moving, but it's the initial pause, that wait while the engine revs up before it goes, which is what I really like about Loc Sound. But it's very different between those engines, even though they're the same decoder. So that's something I'm going to work on, and when I figure that out, I'll have another video for you. In the meantime, take care, stay safe, and enjoy some model air running.